The Power Bryant. Good evening, good sir. How are you?
Blake, earlier this evening at a UALR, their athletics director or assistant AD joined the show, and he's gotten me thinking that it could get interesting tomorrow. So tell me that it's going to be a run rule.
Make sure. I'm just going to make sure I heard this. The Little Rock associate AD says that they think that they can come to Baton Rouge in game 1 and beat LSU.
Well, of course he's going to say that. If you work for them, I hope you would say that.
No, you know me. I'm going to keep it real. I'm going to keep it all 100.
Even if they were if UALR was signing your checks, you would.
No, I'm going to say they're getting their ass whooped.
So you think we're? I hope you're right. I get so nervous for regional, super regional.
I don't think you need to be worried about Little Rock. That's what I'll say. Now they got hot at the right time, but they're not a great team. You should be worried about DBU. You should be worried about every team that you play outside of game 1 going into this. The Fighting Joe De Leons of Rhode Island. Everybody's sleeping on them. All right.
You know, Lamar Odom and the Kardashians might show up to.
So did we just put Joe De Leon, the Kardashians, and Lamar Odom all in the same sentence?
Yes, they're Rhode Island supporters.
Rhode Island can hit it. Look, don't be surprised if Rhode Island goes in that game tomorrow and upsets DBU. Y'all go ahead and think I'm crazy.
Rhode Island, baby.
They can hit it. No, but here's what I think is going to happen, though. They're going to get off that plane, and that humidity is going to hit them, and they're going to they're going to pee down their leg. That's exactly what's going to happen. That humidity, Carter, I'm just telling you, Louisiana hotter than a hoochie coochie right now.
Look
at this Dago skin getting darker. I'm telling you, man. I've been outside all week. Hot sun, half day, 8 to 12 p.m.
But here's the problem. I have a problem with your son having a T-ball double elimination.
Or double header, yeah. Friday, and then we got a tournament on Monday.
Well, what time does this double header start tomorrow? We got to have the Blake post game show.
5:30.
Oh yeah, you see, you can't do it then.
Yeah, I can't do it.
Well,
as soon as we're done, we're live.
I will step in and be dad, so you can.
All right, I'll fly you down here. But listen, it's the last 2 games, and then we go into the T-ball playoffs now.
Oh, okay. So
we got playoffs on Monday. So listen, yeah, we got playoffs. Listen, just gonna throw this out there. T-ball update. We snagged some necks and cashed some checks on Tuesday.
Oh, I love it.
We did. We did. Hey, man. Ben Ruffino with 4 RBIs on the night.
4 ribbies?
4 ribbies, yes. He smoked one. Man. He got a hold of one. Hey, 15-7, the final.
We go from Spider-Man pajamas to now a future King Griffey Jr. I like that, man.
Yeah, he doesn't. He screw all that stuff now. We're starting to get in big boy stuff.
Let's go. I'm proud.
He pulled the Ellie De La Cruz. So when Ellie De La Cruz gets a base hit, he goes on the bases and does this. I swear to God, as God is my witness, this dude will get a base hit and run to first, and we'll do this.
Yes.
Massive Ellie De La Cruz fan. Ellie De La Cruz is his favorite.
Well, of course. Yeah, man. I love it.
Gotta love it. All right. Well, so we will do a post game, but we'll be there Saturday, Sunday. We ain't leaving that. You can bank on that, brother. We ain't leaving there.
Gotta have your post game show.
Oh, we're gonna be there. I'm gonna be yelling at people.
Let's go.
Yeah. All right. Carter, I got to ask you a quick question before we get started talking about LSU. Did you see the EA Sports college football trailer?
So let me ask you this. After it was released in 2025, when we were all playing it the first couple of weeks, how often do you play the 25 game?
I don't a lot, but I don't really have the time.
I don't either.
Yeah, I don't really have the time, but I love playing it. I love like when we had 2 bye weeks, that's when I played my most during the football season. I might play it every once in a while, but I don't really have the time.
Yeah, I've not turned it on in 6-7 months. So
Mhm.
I don't know if I'm going to get the new one. I'm not going to lie to you and say that I didn't enjoy the hell out of it. I freaking love the game. I do.
Do you love that the actual coaches are now going to be in the game? So
That's even better.
Steve Sarkisian can get fired, and you can hire him as your OC.
Oh, it's so good. I mean, college sports, the stars are the coaches, and that's something that's added. I also like that the coordinators. So LSU put out their graphics. So Blake Baker and Sloan.
Joe Sloan.
Sloan will be in the game. Let's go. Let's go, guys.
I think we're going to have to replace Joe Sloan with Blake Ruffino, and I'm going to go as an offensive coordinator.
Do it, man. But if you're going to do it, you got to come in and run the wishbone and the veer.
I guarantee you we won't have 17 turnovers.
Yeah, well, it's because you're going to run the football.
We're going to run that rock. Ask Joe DeLeon what happens when they flew me out to New York. You know what I did? I ran power.
There you go.
I ran stretch sweep.
Good.
I had Carson Beck. I beat the national champion.
Let's go.
Come on, baby. Jeremiah Smith couldn't catch a pass on Big Daddy over here.
But am I excited that the game is coming out? Yes. But more importantly, Blake, that they listened to the fans about their complaints. And they did not need to do that because they know everybody's going to buy the damn game.
Right.
But they still did. Yeah. So everyone, like I'll tune into Bengal and Bordeaux and all these guys. Sivian, I think his name's another like big EA Sports YouTuber. And that's what they were all saying today on Twitter. They were saying, man, they really listen. Like Dynasty mode's going to be better. The coaches are in it. Road to Glory, you can do the high school stuff now. So that's awesome.
Well, the worst thing about the game for me was recruiting to some extent. Like, for example, if you had a 5-star and he wasn't a bust, he wasn't better than the 3-star diamond. Like that, realistically, that might happen at LSU. That doesn't happen around the country. Like, I mean, like Justin Jefferson's not happening everywhere around the country. You get what I'm saying? Like, it's just not happening. So, and I do think that Road to Glory, the progression has got to be better. You got to be able to get better quicker.
Yeah, ain't nobody got time for all that.
Yeah, I mean, Carter, they said you can get a 99 overall rating by year 3. And I'm like, no, I want to get there by like year 1.5.
Nobody's got time for that. Man.
I mean, it took me 17 weeks to beat out Garrett Nussmeier.
Yeah, well, that's. See, I never did the Road to Glory. I just played games, but
yeah, Dynasty was fun.
Yeah,
I love getting a 2 running back system. It kind of hurt me a little bit with LSU because you got to have 2 good backs that can run that thing. Louisville's playbook, by the way. You're welcome. All right. Carter, Brian Kelly, SEC meetings this week. I want to get to what is going on around college football at the end of all this with you, but I think we need to touch on LSU first. What stood out to you the most from Brian Kelly this week and some of the things that he said?
Yeah, but it's rare that, because like you do a good job of this on your show, it's rare that I talk about the same thing 2 days in a row. But I am very critical of Brian Kelly, and that comes with it. You have to be that way about the coach that you cover, and your whole channel is built around. But one thing Brian Kelly can say that not everyone in the SEC can say, Blake, is that he's been consistent. Their message has been consistent about the 8 and 9 game schedule. So it's interesting. All the coaches and all the athletic directors, Blake, did an interview with Paul Feinbaum from the exact same spot at the exact same beach in Destin. If you listen to, in particular, Scott Woodward's interview from 2 years ago in 2023, I think he was wearing almost the exact same shirt. All right. Everything he said in that interview is almost exactly what he said in the 2025 interview, which is a good thing because they were ahead of the curve, not being a bunch of bitches and saying, let's play 9 motherfreaking games. Let's do this damn thing. We're not scared. And guess what they did? They said the same thing this week. While you have all these other teams wanting assurances, they want a pat on the back. Everybody wants to be acknowledged. They hand out packets to all the media today saying, look at how much better our Massey ratings are and our strength of schedule ratings are. You don't really ever see LSU say that. LSU is always a school, especially under Briankelly and Scott Woodward, that says, bring it the F on, right? Mm-hmm. And I envy that. I really do, because Blake, as you know, that's not necessarily my mentality. Overall, it is. I'm not scared of anyone, but it is smart to be selective who you play and how you schedule in college football, because it does matter so much. You talk about it all the time. Indiana having what they had last year really helped them as far as their schedule is concerned. You could really work your way into a bigger playoff field with softer schedules now more than you ever could before. But for LSU to go against that is bold. So, yes, should we want LSU to be in the playoff by now? Sure, but the one thing you can't say about LSU is that they are not a bunch of bitches. They are not afraid. They have said the same exact thing since 2023, and that's something that a lot of fans should give Brian and Scott a lot of credit for.
I got to be honest with you. Here's the thing. I agree with everything that you just said. I do think that there's a caveat to it. I massively disagree with him on moving to 9 games in the SEC, because, Carter, I don't think it's built the same. Like, I don't. So the reason that this is coming up, I feel as if is because of Big Ten pressure, right? Yeah. Like, well, we're not going to go to a 5-11 model in a 16-team playoff because you only play 8 conference games. Carter, think about this. I took the last 7 in the Big Ten last year against the last 7 in the SEC. Listen to this, the top half of this. Michigan State versus South Carolina. Who do you think LSU would want to have played? Michigan State.
Yeah, right. Not close.
UCLA versus Texas A&M. They played both of them.
Yeah, they've already,
Okay. Wisconsin versus Florida. I'm not making this up. 2 teams that LSU lost to. You would have rathered Wisconsin.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
The part that I make up here is that I understand the SEC not wanting to run or act as if that they're running away from anything. They're not running. It's just not created equally. So the teams in the top set or bottom 7, just to start off in the Big Ten, we went through the bottom 7 of the SEC. LSU, as an example, played 3 of them. South Carolina, A&M, and Florida, and lost 2 of them. By the way, the next one would have been Arkansas. LSU goes 2-2 against them. You're going to have to start explaining to me why everybody is making such a big deal in reference to that when I don't know if people know this, when they're allowing Notre Dame now in a playoff to get a bye, get a first-round bye if they're good enough, and they're not in a conference. My whole thing is, Carter, is when you stack it up chip by chip, stack by stack, it's not close on what conference is better. It's not. It really is not close. And where it separates itself, for me, is the bottom half of the league.
Agreed. Totally agree with you on that. Yeah.
So why would you go to 9 conference games? Let's just act as if I agree with you. We're not scared. And if everything were created equally, go to 9. It doesn't mean anything. Fine. It gives fans more games, better games, whatever. But I also understand that it's a bigger struggle to go through an SEC schedule like what LSU's got to go through. By the way, it's not the toughest schedule in the SEC. Georgia's is.
Yeah.
So, again, you're going to have to start explaining to me why they should go to it. That's my opinion. I say all that. What says Carter Bryant?
Yeah, so the other coin to that, though, is you look at the SEC teams that made it last year.
Yep.
Georgia made it. They had the toughest schedule. They deserved to be in it more than anyone else. They won the conference championship. We can get into a debate about it being in Atlanta, but they won it with their backup quarterback versus who I thought the best team in the SEC was, which was Texas if you put in their schedule. But my eyeballs told me that Ole Miss was the best team in the SEC last year. I know you disagree with that, but that's fine. All right. It's a different story for a different day. The problem, though, with only playing 8 conference games is in a 16-team conference, there's just too many teams that don't play one another. And what that does is it creates huge schedule imbalances. So let me ask you this. Do you think the Tennessee Volunteers were a better football team than South Carolina last year?
No.
Okay. Do you think
But
Tennessee...
they're only separated from a game.
Right. And that's because Tennessee did not have to play South Carolina last year.
Well,
Tennessee
here's the problem with that. LSU shouldn't have been a loss for them. Garrett flopped. The SEC screwed him. So,
yes. That's more to my point, though, is that Tennessee wasn't really all that great of a team last year. They weren't.
Carter, they went by wins, and they didn't care about strength of schedule. I mean, we can go, but that's my whole point. My whole point is that they went by. You're making my point for me a little bit. They went by wins.
Okay, but I am more so taking it from, it's not fair to some of the teams in your own conference when some schedules are so much easier than other schedules. Like Tennessee's schedule last year was so much easier than Ole Miss's schedule, than South Carolina's schedule. And that's in your own conference. Those are teams that are all in under the SEC umbrella. And when you only have 8 conference games that you play every year, you have these pretty gross schedule imbalances in your own conference. So just by adding one extra conference game, it's going to, I believe, do a better job of determining who the best actual teams in the SEC are. So that's why I'm pro.
The problem with that is Tennessee did beat Bama, and Bama was the first team that was left out.
Yes, and I give Tennessee a lot of credit, but that was really their only good victory that they had last year.
Well, I don't know if you can say that Ole Miss for sure beats Tennessee based off the single fact that they lost to Kentucky. I mean, they were up and down. They were up and down all season long. I mean, we can't do that. And why we can't do that is, I get what you're saying, is it would give more conference balance to some extent. But
it definitely would. That's not.
Tennessee's got to flop that in 2 years. So you're right. Right now, it's good from them, and not this year, but next year it's brutal. It's absolutely brutal. So I get what you're saying, but it doesn't change the imbalance of what the Big Ten is. You're adding basically what you're saying is let's make it tougher on the SEC, and that's the way that I hear it, at least, maybe. But it's not the same everywhere else. You got to give them a rent. I don't want to say you got to give them a rent a win. Carter, Michigan State, UCLA, Wisconsin, Northwestern, Maryland, Purdue. All of those teams are 0-2 the last time that they faced SEC teams. They're winless.
Yeah.
Winless. They're 0-14. 0-14. So I bring it up to say, yeah, that's cool and all, but the bottom, like, I get the whole Tennessee argument that you're making, but there's no way, no how, no chance that I'm making it tougher on SEC teams when the strength of schedules of massive imbalance. I mean, Carter, think about this. Penn State faced 2 teams with winning records above 550. Indiana didn't have a ranked win.
Right.
So
I'm with you.
If we're talking about conference balance, we've had this same argument in the SEC amongst ourselves. That's not the argument that we're trying to make. The argument is that we're going to have to go to 9 conference games because the Big Ten said they won't go to a 5-11 model.
Yes. So you would be pro the SEC getting 4 automatic qualifiers.
No. I just want the top 16 teams. And if the Big Ten beats you one year, then fine. But I'm certain as hell not making it tougher on them.
So
if there's a model that I like, it's the 5-11. Fine. I will succumb to you getting automatic bids for the conference champion. Go right on ahead. Let's decide on the other 11. I thought Briankelly's are actually, I thought that Brian Kelly's proposal was the best that I've ever heard. Did you hear what he said about the RPI and the committee? It's what baseball does. So you have
so you're saying you want the computer, you want the computer and the committee.
Not the computer, the RPI. Because if a team is 9-3, so let me give you an example what he means by RPI. SMU, Indiana, Boise State, and Arizona State, if you go to the 5-11 model, okay, they would be in, but the problem is that their RPI would be massively ahead of those teams that shouldn't be in. Massive. Like, for an example, Boise State would have been the 19th or 18th ranked team based off of RPI.
Okay.
Which was probably where they should have been.
So let me ask you this. After this week, and you've heard all these arguments tooth and nail.
Yeah.
Are you pro going from 12 to 16?
Hate it.
I hate it too. Okay.
Yeah, I hate it. I think they're again, me and you talked about this 2 weeks ago. It's dumbing down the regular season.
Right. See, it's as much as I've sung the praises of Ole Miss, I am very happy they did not get in, because that validates the only good thing that happened to Kentucky all last year.
Right.
I mean, that was Kentucky's
Imagine Michigan with Ohio State at the end of the year. It meant nothing.
Nothing. Right. And I hate that. It's whatever at this point. But I don't know. I go back and forth on how much I'm going to love the playoff. Carter,
it makes you and I that have SEC or college football channels that are national or sectional instead of like for one team, we make a shitload of money because of the playoffs.
No,
if I was money hungry, if you and I were money hungry, we would run out here and say, do 32 of them sons of bitches.
32. Yeah, Tennessee being in made me a lot, especially when I figured out that Ohio State fans are the most ridiculous YouTube watchers on the planet.
Oh, they love me.
They hate me because I went off the deep end in one of my videos and I said I didn't think Will Howard was all that great. I didn't say
you do that.
Yeah, I did. Dude, they are.
You can't say that.
Dude, they were ready to tar and feather me.
The Ruffino and Joe show got a TikTok video like 500,000 views because I defended Will Howard. They defend Will Howard like the plague, boy.
Dude,
God, they're going to defend him.
If Will Howard is good for the Pittsburgh Steelers, oh my God, you will have Ohio State fans saying nice things about Pennsylvania, which never happens.
Ever. Well, he would be the first one really from an Ohio State quarterback because Joe's not one of them. Listen, I agree with the 5-11 model. I'll succumb to Paul's to giving you 5 auto bids, but here's the problem with the auto bids. Teams like Arizona State get in over a Big Ten or SEC team. I don't agree with that.
I'm fine.
I just don't agree with it. The straight seeding was a good idea.
Yeah.
I'm glad
the straight seeding, but
if you give the 5, I mean, here's going to be the question. If Arizona State can go into let's just say hypothetically they win it again and they got to go into Baton Rouge and they get slaughtered because Texas played up and down to the level of their opponent all year. We all know that. We're taking the one Texas game and saying, well, they played good against Texas. Vanderbilt played good against Texas. 6-6 Vandy played good against them. They're a field goal away from beating them or tying them. So I don't know, brother. Arizona State, the Big 12 champion, is going to go into one of these SEC or Big 10 programs, and they're going to get slaughtered. You mark my words.
Yeah,
they're going to get slaughtered.
Tennessee went into Ohio State and had an exorcism. It's not.
But that's the point. Yeah, that is the exact point.
Blake, we've got to have AQs, bro. Because what's the point
Carter,
what's the point of the Big 12 of even existing or us even caring about it?
If they're good enough, let them get in. If TCU does what TCU does, then let them get in.
Okay.
Arizona State, I mean, we're basing it off of Texas. Carter, Vandy almost beat Texas. Vandy.
Okay. And Arizona State, I understand Texas dominated a large swath of that game, and Arizona State, thanks to Scatterbo, had an amazing comeback. But they should have it's one seat at the table.
All I'm saying is, I'm not saying that they shouldn't get in. That's not what I'm saying. I don't think that they are going through the same level of shit that the Big Ten and SEC are. The simple fact that they get 2 seats, they get half the seats. Carter, think about what we're saying. Iowa State is going to be allotted a playoff spot. So here's in a
5-11 model?
No, in the 4-4-2-2-1.
Okay.
Yeah. Sorry. In the 4-4-2-2-1 plus 3 model, Iowa State is given a playoff spot over LSU. They're given a spot over South Carolina.
I don't agree with. I don't agree.
No, but that's what you would be doing when you go to auto bids. That's what you'd be doing. Now, in reference to the 5, Carter, like SMU still gets in over some of these teams, which I don't agree with.
No, because Clemson won the conference.
But they're not. Good. They put them in the 12-team playoff. What makes you at large bid? What makes me think that they're going to kick them out of a 16-team playoff?
I mean, they won't. But for a 16-teamer, I get SMU still making it. I don't think SMU should have been in over
any of those teams in the SEC. Carter, they got blown out by the 2 top 25 teams that they played in the regular season. Blown out.
Yeah, and I will also say, because I do think we all, you and everyone, has had a little bit of an overreaction of just 1 year of this. So we'll see what happens next year.
It's not just 1 year. It's not 1 year though, Carter. I have a decade's worth of playoff games of teams getting their shit kicked in from those conferences.
No. I'm with you on that. There's so many playoff blowouts.
I mean, fuck. This dude behind me and the guy that used to be behind you, he put up 7. How many touchdowns did Burrow have against Oklahoma?
He had 7 passing.
And didn't he have a rushing?
I believe so, yes. He had 4. He had 4 there. 1 to Thaddeus, 1 to Terrace, and then I think he had 1 rushing.
And then 4 to Jets.
Yes, exactly. Yes.
I mean, Carter, they've always gotten blown out.
Yeah, no. There's always been playoff blowouts. I will say I'm fine with SMU still getting into a 16-team field, but this is why I'm just anti-playoff expansion to begin with, because to your point, the schedules are so unfreaking believably imbalanced. They really are. So, man, like I think it is tough that South Carolina didn't get into.
Me too. I think it's
the
very
field
tough.
last year. I was fine with them not actually getting in, but they were one of the 12 best teams. I know they lost to Illinois there at the end, but that doesn't change.
They had their 4-string running back at slot receiver and Emanwari and the entire defense. Kennard quit at halftime. Both safeties quit at halftime.
It's Bielema. Bielema every year beats a team he shouldn't.
Well,
and that was one of them.
The 6 starters on their defense quit at halftime. They played a half and quit. Spare me that shit. All right, let's get to this one last thing before I get you out of here. Briankelly says this is the best overall roster that he's had at LSU. Thoughts?
That's not true, but I'm fine with confidence. Yeah,
it's not. Tell me why you think it's not true.
Well, Jaden Daniels existed.
Dude, it's so funny. I said the same shit last night.
I mean, and you're, yeah, I mean, your wide receivers, even if you think the wide receivers next year are spectacular, they're not going to set NFL rookie records like Malik and like BTJ was third in the entire NFL in receiving yards with Mac Jones as his quarterback, and Malik set a record for targets with Daniel Jones and your fellow Italian.
And by the way, Daniel Jones got cut in the middle of the year.
Yeah. So, I mean, and that's not including, your first round tackle since 98. That doesn't include the 3 defensive linemen that got drafted. So, like, as far as your roster is concerned, this roster is not better than that roster. You can, though, say that you feel across the board that your team is deeper and more solid than that team, but they're not, especially on your top end true game changer level players, are not. But Brian Kelly also said, kind of jokingly, in that part of the interview with Feinbaum, well, every coach says this. So he prefaced that what he was saying is kind of ironic. And Brian Kelly does these kind of joking things, whatever.
He gets the objection out of the way so you can't hit him with it later. He M&M's you in the 8 Mile. I know I'm white trash. I know I'm from the trailer parks. So you can't hit him on anything.
Right. So but this is no doubt his second best roster. And I will also say this. I think last year's roster was worse than the 2022 roster, his first year when he was there.
Oh, I agree. I vehemently agree.
So there is something to that. So you can look at it from this vantage point, and this was probably the direction that Brian Kelly was saying when he said that as well, is that, hey, this roster compared to where 22 was to 21 and 23 was to 22, the jump from where 24 is to 25 is night and day, even though you lost all the offensive linemen and Braden Swinson. I do agree with them there, because I've said it on your show, I've said it on my show, I've said it on other shows. The team that was on the field versus the Florida Gators at the end of the year was one of the least talented LSU teams I have seen since Saban turned this bitch around back in 2003. It wasn't where we needed to be from an overall roster.
Your whole 2023 class left. Recruiting class left.
Yeah, and then it just, even with that, Blake, I mean, that team just it didn't have the horses. Mm-hmm. And you're able to win 3 games towards the end of the year. Well, those are 3 of the weaker teams that were on your schedule, right? Vanderbilt was good for Vanderbilt, but
they're still not a good team.
They still weren't. They weren't close to you in terms of raw talent. And then Oklahoma's dog shit, and then of course Baylor, it was a bowl game, to say the least. So
yeah, he bragged on those 3 wins too, by the way.
And he should. He should.
Why?
He should.
Well, okay, why? Those are 3 teams that aren't any good, that they should be.
Yes, but you blew 2 of them out, and it's hard to blow teams out. Okay. And Blake, the defensive talent towards the end of last year.
Oh, here we go.
Was so bad in particular. Okay?
It was horrible.
That is, I hate saying that, because, there's parents of the players themselves, watch your show, watch our show, all that stuff. I've said that repeatedly because it's just true. Okay. Literally just go watch the games, and you could do it actually from 2 different vantage points. You could just watch the games without knowing the players and see that we did not have the normal LSU players. And then you could also, Blake, look at it from 2 different lenses when it comes to the actual recruiting rankings of the players. Lots of 3-star, young 3-star players that were playing. Okay. There's a difference between a young 3-star and an older 3-star. Age matters, right? Your body's still developing. You're still learning the game. We're playing so many 18, 19-year-old players that weren't ready to play.
Right.
Yeah, they just weren't ready. So I do agree with Brian Kelly in that this roster is so much better. in particular on the defensive side of the football, than what they were last year.
I agree with that. If you're a top 30 defense, I think you beat USC. I think you beat Florida.
Yeah, absolutely.
Shit, you might beat A&M and maybe split one of those games. Carter, the problem for me is when he says that is offensively, you're not close. So defensively, yes, you might have a better roster defensively with better just overall talent. There's no way you can look me in the face and say that you're replacing, or talent-wise, that you have 4 first-round picks on that in that unit. No way.
No, it's
a massive stretch. I mean, Trey Dez would have to go off. Garrett would have to stop turning the ball over. One of these offensive linemen are going to have to hit, and then maybe 1 or 2 of your receivers have got to be first-round talents, Carter. I mean, I just don't – 5 first-round picks?
And, I mean, I know we'll talk about him ad nauseum, and you and I disagree on how much of this was the issue. You've defended him, as you should, as an offensive lineman. Like, if DJ Chester is going to play for you next year, he's got to be better. He has got to.
Well, I think the whole offensive line's got to be better.
Right. But in particular, DJ Chester has got to be better. He has just got to be better. Because the thing is it's interesting is Chester led the entire team in snaps last year. So this wasn't like a situation where he was coming in and out of the game. It's if you're struggling and you're out there at every single on every single play, to me, the center is the second most important position behind your quarterback. Do you agree or disagree with that? On offense.
I don't know. I don't know how I feel about that. Because, listen, here's the thing about, like, just the overall running game as an example from an offensive standpoint. Even if they could run the football, I don't know if Joe Sloan wants to run the football.
Oh, okay.
And I don't, like, it's not just the offensive line that I think that you have to overcome here. I think it's the schematics of what you have to overcome. Let me give an example. And Garrett, I talked about this the other night. Garrett has got to start checking out of bad run plays. He's got to. He can simply tell the running back to go to the other side of him and then call something at the line and then run the play to where you have the numbers. He's going to have to. He's got to. Carter, they're running to they're running to the short side of the field in some instances, and then when they're running to the short side, they're running into numbers. So even if DJ Chester starts going off, you're going to have to start either get serious push to get 3, 4, 5 yards, or you're going to have to start getting a hat on a hat. I mean, go ahead. Or what?
Or you have to start calling run plays where you're just completely fooling the defense, which we really didn't do.
No, at all.
And there's so many Ole Miss and Tennessee runs that they do where it's literally just the design of the play and the running back's not touched for like 5, 6 yards. I see it all the time. I see it all the time. And we rarely do that. Like, I mean, the few good runs we had versus Ole Miss had some aspects of guile and creativity to it. And we just didn't have enough of that to your point. So
we'll see. I don't think it's his best overall roster offensively. Defensively, yes.
I agree. Yeah.
And Leonard says it's hindsight. We didn't know. There is no hindsight. Like, you got to project.
What did I know Leonard pretty well. He's wearing PHL gear. Look at that. They're at the bowl game. Look at that.
Oh, okay. Look at there.
Look at that.
I mean, he says that they didn't know in 2022 that Jaden Malik and BTJ were first-round picks.
Well, Malik was on every first round. Malik was a top 10 pick on every mock draft.
I'm not talking about 2022. I'm talking about 2023. The 2023 offense was elite. It's not 2022 that we're talking about here. The 2022 offense barely could score against Auburn.
No, what he's saying is leading into
2022. Yeah, you're right. No, leading into 2023 was the year that they did what they did. This is the second year for this team. This is the second year with with Garrett Nussmeier, with Caden Durham, and Aaron Anderson, and a lot of these other guys that should be returning. Bullshit. 2023, I told you live on this show, I put $100 down on a plus 4,000 for Jaden to win the Heisman. I knew.
Yeah.
In hindsight, I should have put $1,000 down.
Dude, a complete side note, because I do have to skedaddle here.
Yes.
I had a massive future on the Timberwolves. Massive. Like, literally, I played it in March, got the most ridiculous odds on it. I was like, I could see Ann Edwards getting it done. And the damn Thunder, the goddamn Thunder, dude, they are so damn good. They are so damn good. And
they are very special.
I'm not mad that I lost, but it was a good bet because the odds got so much. It was 50 to win $5,000, $5,000 US. And Ant let me down, but they just lost to a better team.
They did. More talent. All right. Carter the Power. Thank you for being flexible, my man.
All right, buddy. Good luck tomorrow on the T-ball, man. Shoot me, send me some photos, big dog. Have a good one.
Yeah, we're gonna have a good one. Thank you, buddy. We'll see you. All right, that's Carter the Power